Good morning, everybody. Josiah here, and today I want to talk about something a little different. Lately, I've been hearing this term Christian nationalism, fly here, fly there, um, and people seem to, people really think that Christian nationalism is a big threat, and but they say Christian nationalism, but I've never had someone actually describe to me what it is. So this morning, I decided to look it up on Google AI, which, to my not so shocked self, Google AI definitely doesn't have a high view of it. Of course, because Christian values would go against much of what Google supports and promotes, and most of the social media platforms. But I'm going to go over what Google AI says it is, and I'm going to tell you about the things that I agree with and the things that I don't agree with. And I think my view on this is probably very similar to most Christians. Um, and this is such a hot topic right now, but I think it's good to be addressed, and I think it's going to be very interesting. So I'm going to go over the um, go over the description of what it is, and we're going to critique it. So I'm going to answer the comments in just a moment. Let me see here. Okay. So according to Google Gemini, Christian nationalism is a political ideology that fuses a particular expression of Christianity with a nation's civic and cultural identity, believing the government should support this vision through public policy and national life. It advocates for the United States to be a Christian nation where its laws and culture are based on specific Christian values, and it is distinct from other forms of Christianity in its goal of using government power to enforce its social and moral agenda. This ideology can involve a belief in ethno-racial boundaries. I'm not quite sure what that's referring to. Maybe it's just saying racism there. A desire for authoritarian social control, and the view that Christians are being persecuted when their political goals are not met. So let's just respond to that original thing there. Um, what's wrong with someone wanting a government to align with their values? I mean, doesn't everybody do that? Don't Muslims do that? Christians do that? Socialists and communists do that? Secularists do that? Atheists do that? That's not anything extreme. That's a basic human thing. A basic human thing is to want their government, to want your nation to apply by the moral standards and sometimes the religion or the morality that the religion teaches or the justice that something teaches in that government space. That's normal. Whether that be a religion, whether that be a philosophy, whether that be some type of secular ideology, that is a normal thing. There's nothing wrong with that. I think it's a good thing that America allows people to work to um, try to move the country to the best from their perspectives. Now, not everyone's perspectives are great, right? A communist perspective is awful. It's evil, and I would definitely stand against that. Not all preferences, not all ideologies are equal. Not all ideas or cultures are equal. There are some that are actually more dangerous to society than others. But at the same time, that's one of the beautiful things about America is that for the most part, we're able to express what we believe and still try to go for government, still try to make a difference in the country that we live in for what we believe would be the best. So, of course, every Christian should have a vision that the government of the United States should be more Christian. Every Christian should have the vision that the government of the United States would execute justice from a biblical standpoint. That there is nothing wrong with that. In fact, the original founding of the United States, although not everyone were, the same types of Christians that we have today. Just about every single person there believed in God. Some of them were deists, which are not Christians. Some of them were Christians, but they believed in God and they held Christian values. They held Christian values and Christian beliefs. Which ones went to heaven? I don't know. But they founded a country on a value system that really worked. And for the last 80 years, that value system has been crumbling and crumbling and crumbling, and the nation is becoming weaker and weaker and weaker. And it's very sad. It's very disappointing to see such a thing happen. Let me see here. So of course we think that, of course, anyone's going to want their culture or their government to be more similar to their values. I don't see any issue with that. Ethno-racial boundaries, I'm not quite sure where that's coming from. I don't even know what it means by that. Maybe it means like forms of racism. I do know that there are people who claim to be Christians, like Nick Fuentes, for example, name drop, who are totally ungodly people. And that's not just an insult. I've heard that guy say some insane stuff. He claims to be a Christian, and he would probably be the radical side of what people call Christian nationalists. He claims to be a Christian, and the things that he stands for, the things that he believes in, are really bad. He's like a guy who seems actually racist, actually sexist, actually very hate-filled, and I think he's very quick to speak and make a scene, but the things he promotes are not actually Christian. Most of it is not actually Christian. And I'm sure people call him a Christian nationalist. And I know people call Doug Wilson a Christian nationalist, who's more of a pastor figure. But I think Doug Wilson, even with theological disagreements, I think his stance is probably wildly different than someone like Nick Fuentes, who, let's be frank, is a weirdo. Let me see here. Okay, so it says, and a desire for authoritarian social control. I mean, if you mean just like enforcing law so that people keep the law, like for example, what are some Christian laws that would be put in place? Don't steal. Don't murder. Don't, don't steal, don't murder. Maybe if it got like super, super extreme, they would say, oh, don't have idols. But I think most Christians that are in government, most Christians that are trying to bless the nation by making it more Christian, I think most of them aren't there to go and tell the Buddhist person, the random Buddhist Chinese guy, that he can't have a Buddhist statue. I don't think that's their goal. Maybe that's some people's goal, but but generally speaking, the laws that people are going to be standing up for are things like, hey, don't kill babies, don't euthanize older people, don't commit injustices and unfairness and unfair weights, to take care of those who are actually in need. Like from the Christians I know about that do politics and government, it's very it's very basic. It's like very it's very sensical stuff. But everyone has a different view of what Christian nationalism is. So let's see what more AI says. And the view that Christians are being persecuted when their political goals are not met. Sometimes that can be persecution, sometimes it's not. But like Christian persecution is when you stand up for something that Christ teaches and you get attacked for it. You get criticized for it. You get physically attacked for it. That is Christian persecution. For example, Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was murdered because of a Christian, and I'm sure it's political as well, persecution. Charlie Kirk did not believe that a man could be a woman. and a woman could be a man. He didn't believe that. In fact, he shunned it. He made it very clear that how wrong it is. And he stood against the woke ideology. And that was one of the main reasons why his killer ended up taking his life, who happened to have a trans furry boyfriend and who hated Charlie Kirk. And it was very sad that that guy took the steps he did, because Charlie Kirk wouldn't have taken those same steps to someone he disagreed with, nor would he encourage other people to do the same thing. I'm sure people would call Charlie Kirk a Christian nationalist, but he did have, that was a form of Christian persecution, because he was standing for something that God had said, and he was killed for it. So yes, there are people who suffer Christian persecution in the political realm, but if you do something dumb and then people are like, get him out of here, that's not Christian persecution. Just because you're a Christian and people persecute you doesn't mean you're going under Christian persecution, if that makes sense. Christian persecution is only when people are persecuting you because of your belief in Jesus and because of your beliefs in the things that Jesus teaches. That falls under the definition of Christian persecution. Okay, so it says core beliefs and goals, Christian foundation. Proponents believe the U.S. was founded as a Christian nation and its laws should reflect certain Christian values. This was something that everybody knew up until like 50 years ago. Everybody knows or knew that the United States was founded on Christian values. That doesn't mean it was the highest standard or highest example of what Christianity is, but they wanted to build a nation on the values of the Bible, on the values of God. The whole idea of all men are created equal screams, it shouts, there is a God, and that God gives value to every single person. That's a Christian thing. That's a Christian idea. It's not a Muslim idea. It's a Christian idea. It's not an atheistic idea, of course. It's a Christian idea. You say, oh, well, Muslims believe in God. Muslims say Jews and Christians are the worst of creatures. At least that's what the Quran says. But in the Bible, it says that God desires all men to come to life. God desires all men to come to him, and that there is no partiality with God. And so it is a distinct Christian value, the idea that all men are created equal. And that is in the center of our founding or Constitution. That was in the minds of the founding fathers. So yes, it was a very Christianized, to say the least. It was a very Christianized government. Not everyone were Christians, but very Christianized. So yes, there's no issue with someone wanting a nation to reflect certain Christian values. That's basic. Everyone does that, whether they're Christian or not. Description: government and policy. Christian nationalism seeks to use government to keep the country Christian and ensure its policies are guided by specific Christian morality. Once again, every ideology, every group of people are going to want their standard of morality to reflect the country. There is nothing wrong with that. I see nothing wrong with that. So then it says reinstate prayer in public schools, change school curriculum to include religious texts and beliefs, ban books from libraries, national identity. Yeah, so let's talk about banning books. I haven't heard anyone talk about banning books. The only people that I hear about talking about banning books, and this is no offense, this is just a fact. The only people that I have heard that constantly talk about banning books are normally liberal people. And it's usually a slur or a slander or some type of attack toward Christians or conservatives. And we don't even really believe in that, right? Maybe there's someone who does. I'm not aware of any. But banning books, of course, we shouldn't be just banning books just because, but we should teach people why certain books are really terrible, instead of just banning them. Because if you just ban them, then people are going to be like, well, what's in it? So we shouldn't do that, but we should teach people appropriately. And reinstate prayer in public schools. You notice it mentioned that they want it to be they have a belief that it was originally a Christian nation, and then immediately after it says reinstate prayer in public schools. Why do you have to reinstate it? Because public schools used to pray to God, because this was a basic thing in America for years, for years, and then they took prayer out of public schools. In fact, I remember I wasn't public schooled, but I had public school friends, and I remember when they would go through the religion class, and Christianity was put at the very, very back, and they never got to learn about it because the curriculum didn't go that far into the book. They didn't learn about actual Christianity or Christian history. They didn't learn about Christian ideals or principles. All this stuff, it was in there, but it was always put to the back, and they weren't able to get to it. All of my public school friends, they knew more about Greek mythology and Islam than Christianity, because that is how the school systems were set up where I lived. So it's actually the secular world has been extremely exclusive of exclusive of Christianity. It's been pushing Christianity away, trying to stamp it out. And remember, the secular system is not non-biased. It's totally biased, just like Christianity, Islam, communism. It's all every single thing. You're not going to get around to bias. And secular teaching is not unbiased. It's actually extremely biased. So national identity. The ideology promotes a specific, often exclusionary national identity that is closely tied to a particular group of people, typically white native-born citizens. Now, when it comes to actual Christianity and Christians that I know of who are involved in politics or who like trying to support what they believe in the country, they're actually the least racist people I've ever met. Now, there is quote-unquote conservatives out there that are racist. The ones that I've met were not walking Christian lives, and many of them didn't even identify as Christians. They were conservative, white conservative, but they were not Christians. I've never met a Christian that practiced his faith that was racist. Not once. Not once. It has been linked to a conspiratorial thinking and a belief that diversity weakens the nation, social hierarchy, and control. It can advocate for the traditional social hierarchies, which I would, from my understanding, would be a good thing, that part, and a commitment to social control. And talk about linking a belief of diversity, that diversity weakens the nation. Diversity of thought can. Diversity of human skin color isn't the problem. And I'm not an expert at this particular subject, but if a nation is divided into, it's already divided into two major camps. What if it's divided into 50 major camps? So every nation comes over, and those people, they don't want to have American values. They don't want to stick to the American values. They want to stick to the values of their own culture, which may or may not be equal, better, or worse. The nation's going to be extremely divided. And when a nation is divided, it becomes weak. Jesus says, a house divided against itself cannot stand. So if diversity means diversity in how you think government should be run, or how you think a nation should run, it's going to weaken a nation. One of Israel's, for example, one of Israel's biggest weak points is that the country is constantly trying to change government. That doesn't help the country. I mean, maybe if they're able to get a better government in, but if that better government comes in, they're going to try to replace that one too. And so diversity in peoples in general is not a bad thing. I don't think anyone actually believes that's a bad thing. If they do, that's kind of weird. I'm sure there's some that do, but it's the idea that all cultures are equal, and it's just not true. It's just not true. Like ancient Indian culture believed it was okay, and it was actually the right thing to do, to burn widows, because to pay for their sins since their husband died, they would burn widows in parts of India. I don't think that happens anymore, but it used to happen. Is that equal? Is that practice equal to the practice of the Bible that says take care of widows? in their affliction. It's not equal. It's not an equivalent. It's not a moral equivalent. There is a better, there is a worse. And honestly, if you're honest with yourself and you're not some type of postmodern person that doesn't believe truth exists, then you have got to say, oh, well, the Christian value in that case would be better. It would be. It would be. Taking care of widows is much better than burning them because somehow they have to bear the sins of themselves and their husband since their husband died. Crazy stuff. Let me see here. Undermining democracy. Well, the United States is a republic, but there's nuances there. Critics argue that Christian nationalism is an anti-democratic ideology that threatens the separation of church and state and the First Amendment's guarantee of religious freedom. Now, the First Amendment's guarantee of religious freedom does not guarantee you religiously do violent things, right? It's that we can come together peaceably. We can practice our religion peaceably. So the government actually does ban certain religious activities that may be unpeaceable or terrible. Now, with that said, the idea of separation of church and state was not a constitutional thing. That came from a letter. I think it was Thomas Jefferson, just a letter that he wrote. It had nothing to do with our founding, from my understanding. And it wasn't even about, keeping Christianity out of government. That's not what it was about at all. It was about keeping government out of dictating what religion should be. Outside of, don't commit acts of horror because of your religious beliefs. Separation of church and state, people scream that, but it's like, it's not about separating religious people out of government. It's about keeping government out of churches. That's really what that was about. Okay, so I don't have a lot of time, so I'm just going to get off here for a moment. I'm going to look at the comments because I'm sure I have lots of comments on here. Well, I have some comments, and let's try to answer these really quick. Terry says, "Welcome everyone. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. Hit the like button and sub so you don't miss nothing. Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you." Clown Club says hi. Hi there, Clown Club. Terry says hi, welcome. Clown Club says most people don't understand communism. Well, my ancestors did because they were dying because of it. The Soviet Union was a terrible thing. It was a terrible thing, and so many people left. Why? Because they were being slaughtered. Communism in Russia didn't work. Communism in Venezuela is not working. Communism in Cuba, it didn't work. Communism in what was it? Cambodia, that didn't work. So all the examples of communism we have are really bad, and so why would we think it would be different? Another place. Let me see here. Rest says, where are your breakfast sandwiches kept? Yeah, I'm not sure what you're referring to, Rest. Let me see here. Strom on Twitch says, didn't even know Fuentes was a Christian. He claims to be. He claims to be a Christian, but that doesn't mean he's a Christian. He doesn't act like a Christian. From my understanding, he claims to know God, but he's a very ungodly person. He defies the definition of what a Christian is. Okay, I've got a few more minutes here. Let me see if I can get through these. Albert says, yo, big AL from Southern Cal in the house, just passing through to double tap and support you. God bless. Thank you. God bless you too from Southern Cal. Hey, I grew up in California too. I hope California becomes a better place, an easier place to live, in a more righteous state, because it's such a beautiful place. It's a really big state. It's so fertile. There's so many good things, but it has been destroyed over the years. That's actually why I don't live in California anymore. It's because of how bad it has become. But yo, Southern Cal, God bless you. God bless you, Albert. That's super cool. That's super cool. Terry says, thank you, welcome. Holy Spirit 30 says, good morning, beautiful people. Jesus Christ is definitely God. This is true. Good morning, Talib. Good to see you on here. Let me see here. Okay, so Larry says, how much Ashkenazi DNA should a person have before we become suspicious of them? It doesn't matter. Because just because you have Ashkenazi blood doesn't mean you're an evil person. See, this is where the Bible comes and it says, don't judge someone based off what someone else does. There's tons of conspiracies that go around about the Ashkenazi Jews. And much of them I think are actually totally bogus. Maybe some of them are true. But then people start smearing Jews in general and start hating Jews in general because of some things that they believe certain Jews did. No, you shouldn't be suspicious of someone just because they have a certain blood, just because they have a certain ethnic group. For example, my ancestors were from communist Russia. Does that mean we should be suspected as communists? No. I think that'd be kind of silly. Let me see here. Ren says Jesus is the best and everyone agrees. Only evil people hate Jesus and talk him down. Even pagans I've met agree Jesus is the best example of a human being. Check it out. Check it out. Yes. Up here. Yes. This is true. For the most part. Karine says, hi everyone. Just arrived. Hey there, Karine. I don't got tons of time, guys, but I'm going to try to keep going. Terry says, yeah, that was awful, Josiah. Yes. Larry says, there's a Talmud in every synagogue. Okay. Yeah, it's a traditional Jewish text. Larry says the Talmud says Jesus is burnt in the excrement in hell. I mean, that could be true, but does that mean that every person that's Ashkenazi believes that? No. In fact, there is a very famous Christian minister who's an Ashkenazi Jew, but he doesn't practice Ashkenazi Judaism. He's a Christian, and there's lots of Christians like that. I've met Christians myself who were Ashkenazi Jews. We don't blame someone for something that their race even had a tendency toward, because not everyone is exactly the same, and we need to judge people with just scales and not paint them with a broad brush and condemn them for things that they have nothing to do. It says Jesus is prophet. Actually, Jesus said that the greatest prophet who ever lived was John the Baptist. And Jesus said that he was the Messiah. The Messiah is very different than a prophet. But okay. Randy says, Thomas said, my Lord and my God. Then Jesus told him, because you have seen me and have believed that he was what? Lord and God. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed that Jesus is what? Lord and God. Jesus made it very clear that he is God, according to his words. And he says, I believe that what Jesus Christ says about Jesus Christ, that if you believe he is Lord and God without seeing him, then you are blessed. Don't trust a Bidu who committed incest with his niece. I think he's referring to Muhammad. I don't know about that incident. I do know about the Aisha thing. That's really, really dark. And I know some Muslims have a different view on what that actually meant, but yeah. Randy says, choose on this day whom you believe. A vile man. Okay, so this is what Randy's saying. I may or may not agree with what Randy's saying, but we'll see what he says. Choose this day whom you believe. A vile man, Muhammad, the Pidu warmonger, or the sinless Son of God who died for the sins of the world, so many who believe in him shall not perish. I would rather believe in Jesus. And when people say, oh, how dare you call Muhammad a Pidu? The Islamic sources teach that he consummated a marriage with a 9-year-old. It's not an insult, it's a fact. It's a fact, and so many Muslims will defend that too, which is even scarier. I remember I had to ban 3 Muslims on the channel one time because they were defending Piduism. They were defending it. and saying that it's okay and that, there was nothing wrong with Muhammad, getting down and dirty with a 9-year-old. No, there's something wrong with that. There's something very wrong with that. Let me see here. But I know not all Muslim people actually believe that she was 9, but that's what probably the majority understand when they have knowledge of those things. So yes, Jesus is a much, much, much better example. Let me see here. JC, hi, blessings to everyone. God bless you, JC. Let me see here. Holy Spirit says Jesus is God. Amen. Larry says, we disagree quite a bit, but I appreciate your openness. Well, Larry, if we disagree that you shouldn't judge someone based on what someone else does, I'm sorry for you. God says don't show partiality. To judge someone, Justin Martyr said, to judge someone for the sin of their father is one of the worst of sins. To judge someone who didn't do this thing their father did, or judge a father for what their son did, is one of the worst of sins. It's very serious. We don't judge people based on what others have done. We judge them based on themselves. But yeah, we don't mind talking about controversial subjects on this channel. Terry says, Josiah, have a great day. God bless you. God bless you, Terry. God bless you. And we're gonna go this one more comment. Okay. Yeah, talking about how Epstein was somehow Jewish, maybe. Even if he was, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. There's been horrible people in every society. But with that said, I do have to get going. So guys, don't forget, tonight is Wednesday night. I don't do live streams on Wednesday night, but tomorrow night we have Ask a Christian Anything at 8:30 p.m. EST. Don't miss it. We also do that on Friday, every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. I host live prayer service. We can come on a live stream and receive prayer, and on which is not a debative time, but Thursdays and Fridays, all the debate you want. And then Monday we have Bible study. We're going to be reading in the book of John, chapter 8. It's going to be really good. But if this blesses you, make sure you like and subscribe. Maybe you learned a little bit about what I think about quote unquote Christian nationalism in this live stream. I didn't get to finish it because I ran out of time, but God bless you all. I hope everyone has a wonderful day. God bless you, Larry, Terry, Holy Spirit, 30, JC, Talib, Randy, Kareen, Run, Albert, Strom, Rest, Clown, all you guys. God bless you all. Hope everyone has an absolutely wonderful, wonderful day. And remember, keep following Jesus. He's not just a name tag. He's not just a pew you warm. He's a Lord you follow. God bless you.